In November of 2012, an Amherst police officer showed up at the Animal Rescue League of New Hampshire with a snake bag. Inside was a filthy, flea-infested cat who was found in a ditch on the side of the road. She suffered from urine burns because she was unable to move. The staff at the ARL moved fast. They were not sure they could save this poor cat. She was treated by a veterinarian and given antibiotics. The tip of her ear fell off due to frostbite as a result of her time outside in the cold. Despite all of the suffering she endured, discarded like garbage at the hands of her owner, Millie was friendly and loving towards humans. And although she must have felt the final abandonment of life, throughout her treatments and vet exams she continued purring. Meet Amy. Amy is a typical 26-year-old girl. She lives in an apartment and goes to work Monday through Friday. Amy was deeply betrayed by another human being. Millie suffered a similar fate. Each was living with a terrible void, a hole in their heart that never seemed to heal. Each needed someone to love who would love them back.
I met Millie about a week after Thanksgiving last year, and it was at the Animal Rescue League shelter in Bedford. My mom took me up there, and we were looking around, and she said she had a cat on hold, and I'm okay. So I went in, looked around, and I somehow wandered back to the playpen where Nala, aka Millie, was, and I just sat in there for about 10 minutes or 15 minutes, and I said, hey, I was petting her and all that stuff, and then left the room and saw she had the hold sticker on her, and I'm like, oh man, I really like her, she's gonna go to a good family. And little did I know that when I was done with her, my mom just kept giving me this look, and I'm like, Mom, she's on hold for another family. She's like, no, she's not. She's on hold for her family. And I'm like, what? I was like, why didn't you say anything? She's like, I wanted you to figure it out because I wasn't going to tell you. So I went back and I just had this big grin on my face. And she said, let me guess, you like Millie? And I said, yeah. So I told my mother that's the cat I wanted. And that day I adopted her.
Margaret and Amy adopted Millie that day. She went home in a carrier adorned with a huge red bow on the top and held safely on Amy's lap.
For a long time I had wanted my own pet, and I had a pretty rough summer last year, and I just was like, it'd be really cool to have a furry little friend that I could come home to every day. So I think it was love at first sight with Nala. And there were other cats that I was looking at, but I just kept getting drawn back to her. After my mom left, I went to sleep later that night, and right in the middle of the night, Nala hopped on my bed and just nuzzled right next to my neck, and she would not stop purring. She just let loose as far as purring goes. It was right next to my ear, and she just kept, going like this at my face, and I'm like, begging me to pet her, and she kept doing that throughout the whole night. And the next morning, I had to go away for a couple hours, and I came home and I saw this lump in my bed. I'm like, what is in there? And it turned out that she had wiggled her way underneath my blankets, and I'd fallen asleep and was snoring, and she was waiting for me to go home.
Despite her past, Millie is trusting, loving, absorbs all attention lavished upon her, never stops purring or kneading, and seeks out her human companion always. Amy is beginning to trust again, too. Amy's life revolves around Millie, renamed Nala. Nala wakes her in time for work, greets her at the door every day with a hello, and they both look forward to weekends together.
Just her story of when I was getting her, just, it was pretty heart-wrenching, and I was like, poor cat, but I'm glad that in the end she found her way into my family and my home, and yeah, I couldn't be happier. My family and I love her to death, so.
Both Amy and Nala were betrayed by someone they trusted, but now they have each other, and the healing process has clearly begun.